That I will introduce my embarrassed wife, Reverend Debbie.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Okay, so one night this week we were driving to dinner, and Jeff, told GPS where we're going. Directions started happening, and of course he did not follow them, right? Why? Why bother? He didn't follow them, so didn't take the turn, and GPS just did nothing. It had no response. It was just running in the background until it thought this is another good opportunity for him to take a turn, right? Did he? No. Running in the background. Finally, he takes a turn without GPS telling him to. And once again, GPS just right on it. In another 2.5 miles, please make a turn. This one he took. Yay. But it got me thinking about our topic today, which is clarity. Looking for clarity and allowing fear to guide us towards that clarity. And I started thinking for myself, how many times is Spirit just sort of like running in the background, waiting for me to hear something, right? Giving me a nudge. And then I don't take it. And it just keeps running in the background, right? And waits for the next opportunity to give me a nudge, right? We've all had those, right? Those nudges that are like, okay, it's time to speak your truth. It's time to leave. It's time to let go. We've all had those. But then, immediately, something else jumps in, right? That idea of, well, what if it doesn't work? What if they don't approve? What if I can't let it go? And just like that, all of a sudden, for me, it feels like fear is taking that steering wheel. And now I'm taking my directions from it. You see, I think all of us knows what it's like to pray for clarity, to ask God for a sign, to let that little small voice like boom so we can hear it clearly. But yet, somewhere between the prayer and the answer, fear starts giving us our directions. And so today's question, for me, the question around fear is this. It's not like fear is not our enemy, right? I don't know if I can go as far as to say it's my friend yet. Working on it. But is it possible that this fear is something to pay attention to and not react, not try to fix it or control it, just to pay attention to and see what it's asking us to be aware of? And then take that breath, that pause, and take action. Because fear sharpens our awareness. And it's hard to sit in it, hard to breathe through it. But I think that perhaps that's what fear is asking us to do. Ernest Holmes, he shares with us that there's this divine intelligence, this built-in GPS. He writes, it is from the mountaintop of spiritual communion that we receive inspiration. We must keep the channel free and clear. We must provide a way for ideas of spirit to flow into our minds and out into what we are doing. That is our job, is keeping the channel clear. That's it. We don't need to pray for guidance. It's already happening. We just need to clear out the noise. And that's the key to everything, right? How we keep the channel clear and we keep that mental noise, that mental traffic down. Sometimes that mental traffic looks like worry or resentment. Sometimes it looks like still telling the same old stories that we've been telling ourselves for so long, and they no longer even feel right, but we can't stop telling them. Sometimes those mental traffic noises look like, I need to control this. I need, not I want, but I need to control this. And yes, all of that is fear. That is all fear showing its beautiful face and saying, pay attention. See, it's not that fear is bad, it's that we're so busy trying to read it that we let it take over. We're so busy reacting, we're not just sitting with it. One of my favorite quotes from Holmes is, it goes something to the effect of, no one is without direction, guidance, peace, love, and joy. No one. Because we are all at the divine center of the very thing itself. No one. Not just those of us who think we've got it together, not just those of us who are falling apart. Every single one of us is divinely directed and divinely guided and divinely knows who and whose we are. So the question is, are we willing to hear it? And are we willing to trust it? Because it requires both of those things. You know, clarity isn't something that happens just because life all of a sudden got simple and easy and joyously free. Clarity is one of those things that is available to all of us any of the time. But I believe that there are some things that we can do to open ourselves up to be a greater channel, a more clear vessel. First, we shift our perspective, right? Because what we're looking at determines what we see. Where we put our attention is what we're calling forth in our life. Second, we need to release what we've been carrying, those stories, those things that no longer serve us, that get in the way. And then we need to become willing to listen, to trust, to follow, to allow fear to be our teacher, our guide, our alert system, so to speak. So about shifting one's perspective. You know, sometimes the route we're being told to take isn't the wrong route, it just may be the unfamiliar route. And let me be clear, I'm not saying let's always look on the bright side, because looking on the bright side never did any of us any good, right? It just didn't. And New Thought isn't about looking on the bright side. It's not about pretending difficult things don't happen, because it does. Instead, it's all about choosing where we stand as those things happen, because they're never happening to us. They're happening through us, with us, and for us, if we just allow it. So, we really shape our experience by how we focus on what's going on in front of us. And we all experience our reality differently. There's a great story about a minister who was going to give a fire and brimstone talk about good living with the Lord. And he gets up and he takes this jar with alcohol in it and he puts a worm in it. Takes another jar that's filled with cigarette smoke, takes lid off, throws a worm in it. Takes the third jar, chocolate syrup, throws the worm in it. And the fourth jar has this good, clean soil in it. There the worm goes. And so he preaches and he preaches and he preaches, and he's done a great job. You know, he's gotten a lot of amens. And at the end, he says, okay, this worm in the alcohol, dead. This worm in the smoke, cigarette smoke, dead. This worm in the chocolate, dead. This worm in the soil, it is thriving. What does that tell you? Everyone's silent, and all of a sudden this woman in the back says, well, as long as you drink, smoke, and eat chocolate, you will never have worms. Not what he was looking for, right? But it proves the point. We all have our own perspective of what's going on. The facts are always the same, but how we choose to interpret them, how we decide that it is for, things are for us, and this is a friendly universe, then things are against us. It's coming from that perspective. Because see, what's true in our life is that there is fear, but we don't need to let it run. Because fear, I don't know about you, but fear for me loves to tell stories. And not just a paragraph. It can write an entire novel. One little blip, right? One little uncomfortable event. And I can go down that road, right? I'm going to lose my job, and then I won't be able to find another one. And then I won't be able to pay my bills, and I'll lose my house, and then I'll be homeless. And I can't be homeless. That would be an embarrassment. I mean, the list goes on. So if we shift our perspective, we stop the story. We can cut the story short and not make it a novel. So instead of affirming, I don't know, what about if I step back and say, well, here's the things that I know for sure. This is what I really, truly do know. Instead of thinking, okay, this is going to be hard, what if I shift it? And I say, this is going to be a great learning experience. You get the idea? Instead of thinking people are out to get you, what if everybody's here to love, help you, and support you? What if instead of worrying about what might happen, we celebrate and become grateful for what's going to happen? Those shifts of perspective, they're not denying reality. We can't deny our own reality. But we can look at it from a different lens. Not positive thinking, but creative thinking. Right? Not turning a blind eye, but seeing what else is possible and probable. Viktor Frankl wrote, between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space is our power to choose our response. I love that idea. That space is where our clarity, I believe, lies, between what we see or hear and how we react to it. Because fear is what's reacting. Spirit is responding. Fear kind of contracts, right? It kind of makes us feel small, whereas spirit expands and allows us to feel our power. Fear asks, what if I fail? And spirit says, okay, here's another chance to grow. And isn't that what we're here for? Aren't we here to grow more loving, more knowledgeable, more kind, more respectful? So perhaps an invitation isn't about silencing the fear, but it's about, as Dennis Merritt Jones puts it, dancing with it, playing with it, questioning it. Because there is something within each of us that is wiser and more powerful than any fear. Holmes called it the divine presence. Jesus called it the kingdom within. Quakers, they call it the inner light. It doesn't matter what name you've got for it. That is where our power is. not in our fear. We need to start to trust ourselves more. And we need to trust that the fear is there to tell us something that we need to be aware of. Because once we start to shift our perspective, then we start to see, I think, some of the burdens that we're carrying. Old disappointments, old resentments, old guilt. It's hard to travel when your soul is burdened like that. Every year, thousands of people do the Appalachian Trail. The whole trail is 2,000 miles. Very few people do all 2,000 trails, all 2,000 miles. The terrain is really challenging. The weather is challenging. But experienced hikers will tell you that there's one big obstacle, one big thing that can make the difference. What do you think it is? It's your backpack. It's your backpack. I read an account of a young man. He was writing about his trip, and at the end of the first day, he was like, I don't think I can even make it a day. And he had planned on spending 2 months doing this walk, right? Couldn't even make it for the first day. And an experienced hiker was at the same camp, and he said, come with me, bring your backpack. And he weighed his backpack. The backpack was 60 pounds. 60 pounds. And this experienced hiker went through his backpack with him, and he said one simple thing. Held up an item, is this worth carrying for 2,000 miles? Is it worth it? Not, will you need it? Not, is it important to you? But is it worth carrying for 2,000 miles? They removed things one by one, and before you know it, he had 23 pounds of things. 23 pounds of things that he mailed back home. Now, none of them were dramatic, right? None of them weighed very much on its own. But it was simply the accumulation of all of those things that weighed him down. So I read that story and I thought, what small things am I carrying around that are burdening my soul? Resentments, disappointments, maybe that criticism of someone who I don't even really respect that's still like gnawing away at me. None of them are heavy by themselves. But man, they can add up, can't they? Jesus said, come unto me, all who labor and are heavy burdened. He knew that a heavy soul can't travel well, can't manipulate quickly. Ernest Holmes, it is only when we have completely forgiven that we get a chance, that we get a clearance in our own mind. A clearance. Not perfection, but clearance. Now, I'm not saying forgiveness is easy, but I have found a daily forgiveness practice allows those little things to go. And if we get rid of the little things every day, then the big things start to become even smaller. The grip on the old stories starts to loosen. And we're supporting that by shifting our perspective. The question, is this worth carrying for the next 2,000 miles? Is a beautiful question to ask oneself in life. Now, the answer may be yes, it is. But sooner or later, that yes is going to turn into a maybe, and that maybe is going to turn into a no. And that no is going to be, you know what? I'm putting it down. I'm mailing it back home. And once I start clearing that way, I believe then it's easier for fear to not be our enemy, but to be our teacher. Again, I can't go as far as Gerald May went as thinking of fear as my friend. I'm not there yet. Be a nice thing though, wouldn't it? Fear doesn't feel friendly to me. Fear shows up at 3 o'clock in the morning, right? Fear shows up with conversations of stuff that hasn't even happened yet. And those fears, it's about letting them go. But not all fear is bad. Gerald is talking not about living in fear, but about listening to it. Think about any of the big events in your life. The day you graduated, the day you moved out of the house, out of your parents' home, the day you got married, right? The day you learned you were pregnant, the day, pick a day, pick a big day. Wasn't there always a little bit of fear going on? Wasn't there just that little bit of rumble in the stomach saying, oh my God, now what? Fear shows up and says, this is important. This matters. Pay attention. Not run and hide, not react, just pay attention. Not because anything's wrong, but just because it matters. When we look at fear from that place, it opens us up to a bigger picture, a bigger opportunity. Emma Curtis Hopkins, the teacher of teachers in New Thought, had a practice of look up. And this is your assignment for the week. And I've done this assignment a few times because it is so powerful. When fear shows up, just look up. Raise your gaze to where the wall and the ceiling kind of meet, that 45 degrees. And just take a couple of breaths. And allow yourself to center and feel the power, that power that we have. Lift my eyes up into the hills. Just do that. Now, it's a great practice to do for an extended period of time, but I'll take 30 seconds. I'll take 90 seconds. Just try it. Because what I believe happens when you do that is your perspective has changed because you're not looking down, you're not looking ahead, you're looking up. You're opening yourself up. Lay down, then become willing to lay down what you've been carrying because that burden, your soul doesn't need it. Your soul is ready to soar. And then when fear does show up, pay attention. Be kind to yourself and to it. Listen. Because sometimes where fear is, that's where your growth also becomes. Sometimes. But we get to decide. We get to decide how long that fear sticks around and what we do with it in our place of power. So, perhaps the next time Spirit whispers to you, turn here. Don't argue. Don't resist. Don't think you know better. Just simply smile and take a breath. Take the turn. Just take the turn and discover what Spirit has always been saying to you. You know all you need to know. And you know that direction is divinely guided. That is your truth. Namaste.